Hey, good afternoon to everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It's not so bright and early. It's 12 noon straight up here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I came across an article. I'll say it again. I had no plans on making this video today. I happened to be watching a movie on TV, and I just happened to turn on my news feed to see what was going on, and I came across this story, and I have to share this with you. This just happened last week or so. The things that came to my mind when I saw this story, I know I'm smiling, but the story is not funny at all. The things that came to mind when I saw this story were karma. Karma played a big role in this, at least in my opinion. Irony played a big role in this story. Another thing that came to my mind was once again Jason Aldean's song "Try That in a Small Town." Although I have to say that there's no pictures, there's no pictures of the people I'm going to talk about, and there's no mention of race. So race, as of right now, race doesn't play a story in this. Doesn't play a part in this story. The reason it reminds me of Jason Aldean's song is because the vigilantism involved in this story. Unbelievable. Let me fill you in here. I'll give you the gist of the story, then I'll give you the specifics. Last weekend, a woman was killed crossing a highway. Highway 31, an Atmore, Alabama woman was killed. She was crossing Highway 31, and she was crossing from a bar called the Tavern Sports Bar on Highway 31, and her car was parked on the other side of the road, and she was crossing the road later in the night, and she was struck by a vehicle, a 2005 Chevy Tahoe, driven by one 45-year-old Kenneth E. Harrison. Okay, the woman that was struck was 24-year-old Hannah Martin. Okay. So apparently she's crossing the road and she's struck by this 2005 Chevy Tahoe. By the way, there's no comment on toxicology, so there's no information if there was a toxicology test was performed on Mr. Kenneth Harrison. He struck her. Her body flew and landed in the bar parking lot. He pulled his 2005 Chevy Tahoe in behind and pulled into the parking lot. And that's when an unknown number of bar patrons flooded out of the bar and pulled 45-year-old Kenneth E. Harrison from his vehicle and beat him so severely that he passed away. 4 days later, just last Wednesday, he was taken to the trauma center. They beat him to death. And he was taken to the trauma center where he passed away. So two people. Here, let me fill you in, and it gets weirder from here. Let's see. So there's a Sergeant Daryl, another Daryl. This is like the third story I think I've told you guys with a Daryl, and they're all from the South. I guess that must be a popular name in the South. Atmore Sergeant Daryl McMahon confirmed 45-year-old Kenneth E. Harrison, driver of the vehicle, died at the trauma center Wednesday. He was beaten outside the Tavern Sports Bar on Highway 31. Saturday night, Harrison's 2005 Chevy Tahoe struck 24-year-old Hannah Martin as she made her way across the highway from where she parked her car to the bar. The impact threw Martin into the bar parking lot where Harrison pulled in after. Martin would be transported to the trauma center where she died from her injuries. An unknown number of bar patrons flooded out of the bar and attacked Harrison, beating him so severely that he had to be airlifted to trauma center where he remained until he died of his injuries Wednesday. Sergeant McMahon said investigators are nearing a resolution on the investigation into the assault on Harrison, and his death could have a significant impact on charges brought against those identified as participating in the attack, meaning they're going to up the charges from assault or whatever to manslaughter or worse. Okay, now it gets weirder. Because apparently, Mr. What was his name again here? Kenneth E. Harrison was out of jail since 2016. Why was he in jail? Because he beat a man to death. There's the irony. Harrison has a criminal record of manslaughter. He was accused of the murder of 54-year-old Alberta man. In 2011, 6 years after Sanford's Sandy Lee Ledbetter disappeared from the Magnolia area, and a year after his remains were positively identified, Harrison admitted to beating Ledbetter to death. So apparently he hid his body somewhere, and the body was found, and they tracked it back to Harrison, and he admitted doing this. Harrison, now here's where karma and irony both come in. Harrison was sentenced to 15 years in state prison, but he was released early in February 2016 after only serving 5 years. If he had served his full sentence of 15 years, which I don't think it's all that, I think 15 years is still a light sentence for beating somebody to death, and 5 years is ridiculous. But if he had served his full 15 years, he would have been in jail until October of 2025. He'd be in jail for another over 3 more years, or I'm sorry, 2 more years, and none of this would have happened. If he had served his full sentence, he wouldn't have hit Miss Hannah Martin, and subsequently the bar patrons wouldn't have beaten him to death, and he would have been better off in jail. Thus the irony, like I said, and karma. An unbelievable story, and all this in Alabama, which I don't want to disparage a whole state, but this last week makes me not want to ever go drive through, fly over, go anywhere near the state of Alabama. I'm happy in my little blue state of Connecticut up here. All right, the links will be down below. I hope it made sense to you. It was a little confusing. Again, like I said, it reminded me a little bit of the song, Jason Aldean's song, "Try That in a Small Town," as to these small town vigilante justice incidents. All right, you guys have a good Saturday.